Okay, I would like to thank everyone for being here on this afternoon for this forum. Thank you so much for coming and supporting us on today. We're gonna go ahead and get started by having a opening and grounding by the tribal chairman of the Comecrudo Tribe of Texas, Juan Mancias.
Thank you very much. I just want to start off because of this grounding. It's going to take a little effort for me to really talk about some of the things, because we've had so many successes, and Becca and myself, we've gone overseas and talked to these banks that are pulling out. Nobody could take credit for that except for the people that have actually done it. And now that we've been accredited by the United Nations because of what's happening, I think that I have a right to ask people not to speak for us, but at least advocate what's going on. We do not want the land to be sold. And we're going to put the hashtag all the way out there. And if you don't agree with it, you can step out today, right now, because I'm not going to put up with, the white folk trying to tell me what to do. I'm tired of it. I'm not here to make any white folk comfortable. I want you to know that. I'm trying to make my people comfortable. I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of people trying to tell us what's the right thing. Just because you live here doesn't give you stake for it. We were here first. Okay, you want grounding? That's the grounding I've got. And I'm saying it real loud and real and clear so that you can understand that. And if you're not advocating for this tribe, please step out. Because we are no longer accepting anybody to speak for us. If we're wrong in what we're doing, then let us be wrong. Because you've been wrong for 500 years. You understand? And they're still exporting the riches from this land, and they're still taking it across land. And I can't ask any of our gods, to sit here and advocate that kind of mentality. I can't. And that's why I keep telling you, my spirituality lies in the tears, the blood, and the sweat. And the sweat of my people, and the ones that are still here that have been intimidated by the oppressive Mexican language, by the oppressive English language. So I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to put up with it. And I will own my toxicity as soon as you own your own. 500 years of genocide has got to stop. And that's what's going on here. And I'm really upset because people want to have it their way because they think that's a fine. I'm not going to follow your canon law, your man-made law, because we're not represented in there. We have no representation whatsoever in what's happening there. Nothing at all. So you want some grounding? This is the grounding. And I just want you to understand, we're grounded here. We have a stake here. Not only do we have a stake because these are our original lands and everybody's walking over and gentrifying over them, and it's okay to have, McDonald's come in when the mom and pop's stores are being completely becoming bankrupt because somebody wants to bring in, Chili's or somebody else because, let's urbanize these lands. Let's continue to urbanize. This is pristine land here. And if you don't understand that, get out of my way, okay? That's all I've got to say. Because we are not here to make nobody comfortable but our people. The people of this land that have stayed here, grown here, and they've worked hard for this land. You understand? I just want you to know that. And because I'm not going to settle for any solutions that anybody that thinks this is the best way of doing things. We got a problem. We got a major problem. You can hate me, but I hate something bigger just like you hate it, and we've got to be in the front lines. You're not there. I haven't seen you stand with us. I haven't seen you run with us. I haven't seen you been there fighting the court cases. I haven't seen you go to France and talk to these banks, and I want you to know I have every right to say what I'm saying. Now that's my grounding. Thank you.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Juan Mancias, for that grounding. Yes, we're going to be grounded in the voices of the people of the land, and that's how we are going to start this forum. So let's be reminded that those are the voices that should be amplified, those are the voices that should be heard, and that we should make space to hear and listen and make every effort to understand. Okay? Thank you again. All right, so let's introduce our panelists for our forum today. If you could give them a round of applause after they are introduced. Today, we have Atziri Reyes from El Paso. We also have Chloe Torres from Corpus Christi, Texas. We also have John Beard Jr. from Port Arthur, Texas. And we also have Joanie Steinhaus from Turtle Island Restoration. And I will be your mistress of ceremony today. My name is Deanna. Y'all can give me a hand too, John. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with our first panelist, who is Atziri Reyes. Atziri Reyes is a 21-year-old organizer, born and raised in border city El Paso, Texas. El Paso faces human rights crisis due to its proximity to the Permian Basin, the largest oil and gas shale in the world, and the border. In her community, Atziri is fighting the J.P. Morgan-owned monopoly utility company, El Paso Electric, from expanding oil and gas projects in the city. She is currently working on a campaign with the goal of creating a climate department and beginning the process of Hello? Okay. Yeah, y'all know what's up. El Paso Electric. Let's give a hand for Ms. Reyes.
Well, hello everyone. As Deanna had mentioned, my name is Atziri Reyes. I am coming from El Paso, Texas. And I really love my city. El Paso is very culturally rich. It's beautiful. It's full of strong community members. And so I'm here to speak on behalf of them and speak on behalf of my community whose voices are often shut down and ignored, given that we are a minority group. So as it had been mentioned, El Paso is a border city. And so because of that, more than just the people are affected. The land is affected, the animals are affected there because of that border. And in addition to that, our community, our people are often being ignored because we're mostly bilingual and we're mostly Spanish speaking. We don't have papers, a lot of us. And so because of that, we often don't have the right to even vote and be decision makers. And it sucks. It sucks because of that, the people in power get to take control and get to manipulate us and get to do whatever they want to us. And we have to put a stop to that. The people who know this are J.P. Morgan, for example. So J.P. Morgan, again, being one of the biggest investors in the fossil fuel industry, decided to buy El Paso Electric back in 2020. And after that process, they immediately wanted to start building gas plants. They wanted to build Newman 6, 7, and 8. However, back then, because our community, our people had had enough, people got together and decided to make a fight. We tried stopping all of those gas plants, and Sunrise El Paso and community members, we got together and we were able to stop Newman 7 and 8. However, because they're rich and they have power, Newman 6 was still built. But in that process, we decided, they gave us I guess, hush money, right? Which was distributed into different community groups, one of them being Sunrise. And so that's when we decided to start drafting what is known as the Climate Charter, or Prop K, which is in the ballots for May 6th. Woo. But our goal in that is to create a climate department, a climate director and team to make those major decisions about the environment and to fight against climate racism, which El Paso is very known for. We also want to create a climate commission to bring the power back to the people. It would be composed of community members from just different districts. And so, again, it would be a great entry point for the people to make those major decisions in the environment of El Paso. So that's currently the situation. And in addition to that, we also want to conserve our water. We're a desert city, and so our water is, our river is usually very, very dry, and we're in constant droughts. And a lot of our water is given to the Permian Basin, and it's given to fossil fuel industries when it should be given to the people. It should be staying within our community or communities that need it. It should be staying with the people. And so with the Climate Charter, we also want to stop giving our water to these industries. To add to that, we also want to increase renewable energy, because El Paso Electric only uses 5% renewable energy, and El Paso is the 10th most sunniest city, in the world, and we only use 5%. And so through the Climate Charter, we also want to make sure that we make that 100%, because El Paso would thrive on renewable energy. El Paso would thrive in being green. I have a family member, actually, who told me that when they were, little kids, when they were children, it was still pretty green in El Paso, and now it's known for being very dry and very, very, dry. Yeah. So again, I'm here to speak on behalf of my community, make sure that people know about El Paso, people know about its culture and its people, and don't underestimate the people and the situation that we're in. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Hearing the voices of the young people who are working in these areas in their cities. So please be sure to try to connect with her and the work that she is doing in El Paso. Give her another hand, everyone, please. Our next speaker is Joanie Steinhaus. Joanie has worked throughout her career to raise awareness of natural resource damage to the air, water, land, and people. She has been the Gulf Program Director for Turtle Island Restoration Network since May of 2013. The Gulf Office focuses on impacts to the major rivers in Texas, the watershed, and the Gulf of Mexico. They have partners in the 5 Gulf states and Puerto Rico working for protection of the good green earth. Let's give a hand for Joanie Steinhaus.
Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. I want to talk to you a little bit about myself first. I think a lot of you don't know who I am. I was originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was born and raised in a small community outside of Pittsburgh. And I grew up in the woods, and I felt that was a very fortunate childhood to have. I had 2 older brothers, and most of the younger people in my neighborhood were boys, so I was definitely a tomboy, spending time in the woods, exploring the creeks, climbing trees, and had 2 concussions and a fractured skull to say that I was one of the boys. So I pretty much made my parents nuts when I was young. But at the time, I didn't realize how fortunate I was to have that childhood, to have that unrestricted time in nature, and to be out and explore and discover as a child turning over leaves, seeing tadpoles, learning insects, learning, by trial and error if something tasted good or not. But, I feel very fortunate to have had that opportunity. And I listened to Juan today, and it truly makes my heart hurt. I have such a deep respect for Indigenous people and their respect for our planet and what they have been through. And there are no excuses. Yesterday, we had a forum in Brownsville, and the most powerful thing that I'll take back with me when I go back to Galveston was words that Juan spoke yesterday. And he said, "We're not protesting, we're protecting." And I think that was so powerful. And I'm going to take that message with me, and I'm going to live that message, because we are being restricted. Everyone that is trying to protect, they're using rules and regulations against us, and we can't even fight these agencies. So I'm going to continue my fight for protection of our good green earth. I spent most of my adult life in Texas. My background is education. I've taught in the public school system. I worked for the River Authority in Central Texas for about 8 years or so, helping to educate people about a riparian system and the value of water. And I started there in 2004. And when I started learning more and more about their major rivers and the flora and fauna and the different species, I was in Houston and moved to Austin for that job. It was just such a beautiful experience. And I got to take people on the river in rafts and canoes and kayaks, and to tell them, this is your water source. This is liquid gold. This is life for us and life for the planet. And so I know how much the Indigenous people are fighting for water. I know what you're going through in El Paso. And as we continue to harm our earth, we're destroying our climate. We're destroying the natural cycles. Look what's been happening with these tornadoes, the droughts that we're experiencing, the fires. My office, our headquarters are in Lima, California, and the fires, like when all those fires were happening, everybody I would speak to, they'd be like, "Oh, we can see the smoke," or we can actually see the flames. And I'm like, "Well, shouldn't you be leaving?" And like, "No, it's over the hill." So we are slowly, because of the plants that we're allowing to continue, all the fossil fuel and the plastic industry, all the pollution that's happening, we continue to kill our earth. We continue to pollute the air. We continue to change the climate. We're polluting the water. We're both basically killing ourselves. And I know each of you know that. But it's very difficult working in Texas to get people that have the power to make the changes to listen to you. Local and state and federal regulatory agencies and elected officials don't want to hear it. They don't want to stop the industry that they think is bringing that almighty dollar to them. So I also want to tell you about my name and my organization. Originally, my boss, our executive director and founder, Todd Steiner, was traveling with his family in Mexico. And at the time, it was 34 years ago, and he had his young children with him. They were backpacking through Mexico, and he saw at the time what was the legal harvesting of sea turtles for food and leather and the shells. And so he worked, there was a facility in Mexico that was the harvesting plant. And he worked, he came back, his wife is a doctor, and she got transferred to California for her, I don't know if internship, residency. And so he began Sea Turtle Restoration Project. And he would sell bottled water at the time. He would make any money he could to fight that facility. And it did get shut down, and it became an education facility for people about sea turtles. And then he continued the fight because he knew there were biologists and indigenous people trying to protect these animals. And so he founded Sea Turtle Restoration Project specifically to protect sea turtles. Well, 34 years later, of course, the organization has grown. We're still small. There's probably 10 or 12 staff members. It's just based in California and the Gulf office that I run. But I like to say we're strong but powerful because we have a united front. Our goal is protection of the watershed, protection of people in place, and ultimately the ocean and the water that sustains us. And so our name was changed to Turtle Island Restoration Network. And we have a long-term project. We work with 18 organizations in Costa Rica and the Galapagos. And we are tagging turtles and sharks to protect a migratory swimway between the two areas. And so when he decided to change the name, it was because of so many different indigenous groups, not just in the United States, but around the country. And so I want you to know that me as an individual and the organization that I work for, we know the history of what sea turtles mean to indigenous groups. We know the history of what Turtle Island means to the United States, and the sky woman coming down and resting on that turtle, and the animals that tried to get the dirt and put it on the turtle's back to begin the earth. So please, if you have any questions about the name of the organization, or if you feel it's offensive, please let me know. But know that we never meant it to be offensive, and it was meant and named for protection of sea turtles, the work they were doing, and also out of respect for indigenous people. So I did want to share that with you today. I work really hard to fight single-use plastic. Talking with this wonderful lady here, her home is Jamaica, and they have passed in 2018 a ban on single-use plastics. Other countries have done it. If you're not familiar, plastics are a byproduct of the petroleum industry. And so I've been fighting plastics for the last 20 years to get single-use plastics, the reduction of single-use plastics, the elimination of them. Of course, in Texas, our state government doesn't believe that. They don't want to ban. We had 13 cities that had banned single-use products. And we fought with the city of Laredo and multiple other entities all the way to the Texas Supreme Court. In 2017, in my hometown of Galveston, we were going to ban single-use plastic bags. And the city government was sued by the state attorney general if we would have passed that ordinance. And so they also sued Brownsville, and they sued the city of Laredo. And Laredo fought it all the way to Texas Supreme Court, and we fought by them, as did ranchers, because cattle and sheep ingested, they're ruminants, they regurgitate it, they die a horrible death from that plastic. We stood by cotton farmers because their crops were reduced when the plastic bags were stuck to the plants when they harvested. It put less value on their crops. And we even had oil industry standing by us, the old small town pumps. The plastic bags would get stuck in that. And even though so many entities from across the state went to our state government, fought at the Texas Supreme Court level, because the industry is so powerful, because it is a byproduct of the fossil fuel industry, they ruled in favor of the fossil fuel industry, and there are no bans on any single-use plastic products. So all that work we did led us to start fighting fossil fuel. Who was behind all this? Who sued? They said, oh, it was the small companies, the small, not real estate, but the small businesses, because they didn't want to go from having to buy something besides that 2 or 3 cents they pay for a single-use plastic bag. But no, it was the fossil fuel industry. So we began fighting fossil fuel, and we began fighting LNG. And because of that, we've joined with so many movements and so many individuals. And we will continue to fight, and we will be a voice against fossil fuel, and we will be a voice against LNG, and we will be a voice against dredging. In Galveston, they're proposing to build a spine, the biggest project that would ever be constructed, the Corps of Engineers, from Galveston to Bolivar. It would kill the bay. It would absolutely kill the bay. It would change the velocity, it would change the salinity. There's 30 or more species of fish that the larvae migrate out into the Gulf of Mexico, 5 species of shrimp, the oysters, the dolphins, the sea turtles, sharks, everything that migrates in and out would be stopped by this huge gate system that would have guillotine-style doors that they call environmental gates. And so we've been fighting it for 10 years. And the reason they're constructing that is because when you go up the Galveston Ship Channel and you go up the Houston Ship Channel, there's 3,000 to 4,000 storage tanks from these facilities that they're not responsible. Industry that's making billions and billions of dollars as they kill our environment, they're not responsible for fortifying their own facilities. They want us to build this gate. And now our state government has started the Gulf Coast Protection District. Environmental gates, guillotine doors that will kill wildlife. Gulf Coast Protection District, which is basically a taxing and eminent domain authority. They'll never say that, but that's what it is. And so we will continue to fight. I want to do it as respectfully as possible for all the Indigenous people that are in this room. And so if I ever in any way offend you, please let me know. It is not my intention. My intention is to do whatever is in my power to help raise your voice and to fight the fight with you. I do strongly believe in your ways. They mean a lot to me in my heart. I love how you protect our Mother Earth, and we only have this one good green earth.
Thank you, Joanie, for coming with solidarity from Galveston, Texas, and the work that we are doing along the Gulf. Again, thank you, Joanie. Our next speaker today will be John Beard. John Beard Jr., yes, he's a junior, is the founder, chairman, and CEO of Port Arthur Community Action Network, which is also known as PACAN. After working in the oil industry for 38 years, Beard turned to holding the industry accountable and becoming a community advocate in his hometown of Port Arthur, Texas. He founded the Port Arthur Community Action Network to fight for health, safety, and protection in an area teeming with refineries, export terminals, and petrochemical plants, as well as cancer. In the past year, Beard has emerged as an environmental justice leader on the national and world stage. Everyone, let's give a hand for Mr. John Beard.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you've had the opportunity. I've only had a partial opportunity to enjoy that delicious meal, but I plan to take care of that after this is over. But once again, my greetings from Port Arthur and the Golden Triangle and the Gulf Coast to all of you. And let me first acknowledge the Carrizo Comecrudo for having this event here. Let me also acknowledge the fact that you all had the youth run, and that is important because if we don't pass on to young people what this means and give them the power and the tools to fight this successfully, we will lose the one planet, as Joanie said, that we have that's our home. I also would like to thank Krista for her work and for Juan for his work as tribal leader, for all the accomplishments you all have had just recently in terms of the work, and that work continues. So I want you to know from here, from this seat and from Southeast Texas, that we support you and we're here to work with you and work together, because the representation you give, fighting for all, for everyone, is the fight that we all need to pick up and carry. That is the mantle that we should all wear. So I'd just like to give you a little quick snapshot of what Port Arthur is like. And I like to say that two things. That when you come to Port Arthur, you're in the belly of the beast. Why? Because some of the largest refineries in the country, if not the world, are in Port Arthur. Motiva's refinery is the largest in the country. But less than 15 miles away in Beaumont is the second largest refinery in the country. And then you have the serial polluters, as I call them, Oxbow Calcining, a Koch brothers company, puts over 11,000 tons of sulfur particles and particulate matter to the air, which makes it very difficult for people to breathe. And then you also have Valero with over 600 air quality violations in a 5-year period, unregulated violations. And you have numerous other sources like Total Refinery, which is the third largest emitter of the cancer-causing agent benzene in the entire United States. This is what environmental injustice looks like. This is what communities suffer from when the petrochemical company does not have their feet held to the fire to protect the lives and health of people and protect all they hold dear. But what do you have if you don't have your health? What kind of future do you have if children can't breathe free and grow without, as some children in Port Arthur, having to carry a nebulizer in their pocket? Or some of our elderly citizens, like Annette Mitchell, retired school teacher in her 80s, they can't get out in her yard and tend to her flowers anymore because she's tied to a breathing machine. Very rarely gets a chance to get out and move around on her own. And then you have a high incidence of cancer here in Port Arthur. Matter of fact, it's twice the state and national average. It's considerably higher, 40% higher than virtually every other part of the country. But yet no studies have been done since 2010 when we learned this to find out what was the source. Well, we all know what the source is. It's this petrochemical complex that puts out these toxins, which we all know are hazardous, carcinogenic, and that they cause basically a loss of life. So what do we do? Where do we go? How do we stop this? How do we address it? Well, we have to elevate voices like that of Juan and Carrizo Comecrudo, but of all of us here who are fighting and concerned about the type of life we're going to give to our children and to our posterity in the future, to those unborn generations. What kind of planet will we leave behind? What legacy will we leave so that people will know that we were here and we fought for this planet? Because despite our best intentions and the work that's going on, there are those that don't see or recognize or even appreciate what we go through. I just recently returned from Washington, D.C., sitting on a panel regarding environmental justice and equity. And the biggest problem with that whole thing is, well, two problems really. One is that there was only two of us who were frontline advocates that were represented there among the numerous organizations and people across this country. That was not only unfair, but it was also unethical, and it wasn't right when industry had multiple representatives sitting to the table to talk about those issues. But then what's even worse is that you have elected officials that put laws on the books and in place that don't even recognize or acknowledge environmental injustice, the cumulative impact that these plants have had on life and health of people for, in the case of Port Arthur, over 120 years. And there are numerous other things that they simply dismiss because it's of no value to them. But we all know that each and every one of us has value. Each and every one of us has worth. If I may go into my, I guess you would say my spiritual background, to say Jesus, or the Good Shepherd, left the 99 to go get the one. That one matters. Each and every one of us in here matters. And so let's take away from that message the fact and the idea that each and every one of us has to stand up and play our part in turning this around, turning injustice into justice, fairness, and equity, to make sure that we help build the foundation to bring in a new world that looks to help everyone, that this rising tide lifts all boats, that no one is left behind because they don't have sufficient means to live an effective life. Or in the words of Dr. King, that there should be food in their bellies and education for their minds so that they can be the best they can be, because if I'm not the best I can be, how can you be the best you can be? So what we're fighting for is the future of this planet. The only place we know in the known universe that we are and that we're able to survive. This is a beautiful planet, but there are those that will destroy it till there's nothing left, in ways that Elon Musk and others are trying to go to Mars and other planets. I guess they'll go there and do the same thing if they get a chance. They'll destroy that too. But we can't let them destroy this one place, this one spot that we have, that we all share and have in common. So I'd like to just leave that with you, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John Beard, soul brother on the front lines, also here in solidarity from Port Arthur. Thanks so much, Mr. Beard. Our next speaker will be Chloe Torres. Chloe Torres is a lifelong resident of Corpus Christi, Texas, and truly believes in the city's potential to set an example for other U.S. coastal cities on how to fight back against pollution-causing industries. They have been a local community organizer for the past 5 years in Corpus with numerous grassroots organizations which have tackled a variety of issues such as immigration, racial inequity, labor, and of course, environmental justice.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much to Juan and Krista, who invited me here to be a guest and to share the story of where I come from. The Carrizo Comecrudo Tribe are the example for coastal cities who want to fight back against pollution. I'm just so inspired and grateful to be able to witness such strength and such knowledge. Yeah, so I said I wasn't gonna cry today, but it's not looking likely. Yeah, it's it's hard, right, to separate yourself from being what people call like a frontline leader, right? And you're always supposed to be very strong, very measured. But the truth is that it's hard. It's hard because you look at this room, this panel, and you're like, wow, there are superheroes amongst us. But in reality, we're human too, right? We have to breathe the same air that our communities are breathing. And in a way, it's hard to know that many people, not just in the United States, but around the globe, are suffering the way we suffer. But we also have to remember that we are the majority, and that the fossil fuel industry, while they have the money and they have a captured narrative right now, that there are more of us. And it is exactly how John said, that every day we do a little something to move our work forward. And that's all we can ask of each other, right? And we might not, succeed when we first try a campaign, right? Because many of us are still learning and we're still growing. But what matters is we have people that we are connecting with, that we are learning from, and that's how we move forward. It's a constant experiment, right? But as long as we are grounded, as John said, in the love for people, in the protection of people and the land, we can't go wrong. So, I'd love to talk about Corpus Christi for a bit, right? It's funny because I'm usually the person be like, oh yeah, we're south of, but we're north of Port Isabel, right? About 3 hours north. We are a coastal city. We're right along the Gulf of Mexico, and we have been plagued for a long time by the fossil fuel industry. And, we started with refineries, and through racist, frankly, anti-Black urban development, our north side of the city and west side, but, predominantly Black and Latinx people were forced into the industrial area of the city. And so Refinery Row, it's a 12-mile stretch of just oil and gas refineries, and it is 1 mile away from where people have their homes. And that area too has extremely high rates of cancer, extremely high rates of birth defects in children. 19% of the children in the coastal Bend area where Corpus Christi is has some sort of respiratory illness. And again, right, industry does everything they can to say that it's not us. You can't prove one cause, right? Kids are just born sick. I guess, right? It just came out of nowhere. But after that, or through that era, we saw the rise of exports, right? Fracked methane gas, right? Coming from the Permian, coming from, other places in the country. And now we export, that natural resource overseas. And it has led to increased air pollution. The main facility that we fight, or I guess I lead the program on, is Cheniere LNG, who John knows very well. We definitely have a common enemy. We all have a common enemy, but John and I, we got a bone to pick with Cheniere, for sure. And Corpus Christi has a tradition of organizing, which I'm so grateful for. It's mostly civic organizing, right? So environmental justice, of course, those on the north and the west side have known for a long time that they were the sacrifice zone of the city and have been doing everything they can to protect themselves and protect their neighbors. Finally, the rest of the city is becoming privy to that knowledge. And of course, young people, right, who this walk is centered around, are ready to start actually, paving the way for what racial equity looks like. And the way they see it is through environmental justice. And it is amazing to see, because growing up in Corpus Christi, as a young person, all you hear growing up is, can't wait to get out of Corpus Christi. There's nothing for us in Corpus Christi unless you want to join the military or you want to go work for the refineries, right? And young people in my city don't want that, and aren't, like previous generations, aren't going to accept the fact that we have to flee to have a quality of life. We're gonna make that quality of life. We're not going anywhere. It is our home. And so it is with so much love in my heart that I say I'm so, again, so blessed to be here, so honored to be here, because this is how I learn, and these are the lessons that I'm going to take back to my community, that they're doing this across the country. They're doing this across the globe. And there is nothing inherently wrong with us that we can't also do the same thing. We just need to be brave like them. We need to not take no for an answer, right? Because we are worth fighting for. So I see so much of them in y'all. So thank you so much for being here, because what you did today was show up for environmental justice, and you moved the work forward. So please, please, keep showing up. When the Carrizo Comecrudo asks you to be there, let's be there, okay? So thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much, Chloe. All right, our last speaker is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Juan Mancias, but he has stepped out of the building. So we will call the little one, the little Juan, to come and speak in his place. Everyone, go ahead and give a hand for Mr. Mancias. Haha, y'all caught that joke, huh?
But he's one too. Over there, see? I thank you all for coming out today. Today it was, well, the whole week has been an emotional ride for all of us. The Bridge to the Ancestors run from the Permian Basin all the way down to the Gulf, making the connection that it starts somewhere and it comes all the way to the Gulf. And these communities, like Aritze from El Paso, who is affected at where the river starts in our state, it's all the way down to all the rest of the communities that flow down from the rivers, from the Permian Basin into their Gulf. So making that connection that it starts from somewhere, but it starts in our state. And that's the biggest fight that we're all trying to amplify, trying to bring that connection, and also saying that we don't want it. We don't want it anywhere. We don't want it ever again. And I think the most powerful thing on this run was for the experience that we were putting every time our feet touched the ground, it was a prayer through these places, in these towns, in these communities, to bring this awareness of what was happening and what we were feeling and how we were moving forward as we continue to make this run. And I know I felt it, growing up in West Texas as a child. I'm only the second generation born out of the Rio Grande Valley. And my connections are strong and hold still in this state. And, going back home, it's hard to see what has been destroyed, because when I grew up, I was able to play sports out in these areas and breathe air. But when I went home, I couldn't even be in these spaces. I felt sick all the time because I couldn't breathe. And it takes a toll on you to have that feeling and that experience. And it was hard to be there. It was hard to see what was happening. It was hard to see how the land was being destroyed. It's sickening and it's disgusting, and it needs to stop. And as we were coming and going to these sacred spaces where industry was just down the street, just right there in the places that we were at. It's hard to be in those spaces and say, I can barely go back home and visit to the lands that are older than oil and gas, that are older than extractive industry, that have been there for 1,000 years. And when my dad said, we were here first, and they continue to destroy it. They destroy us. That is a genocide that needs to be discussed. And I'm happy that we made it with a little minimal, setbacks. Like everything, nothing is perfect, because I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. But we were here. This today. What I wanted to happen was, so the people that in this community that live here in the Rio Grande Valley have an experience to hear the stories of places, of communities along the Gulf Coast and in the Permian Basin who already have industry in them, who are fighting the fight to stop these disgusting and evil villains in their communities that are poisoning their families and their children, the land and their homes, the water, the food that they take in every day, the air they breathe. And if we don't come together now in this space, those LNGs are going to do the same things to our communities here, to our families here, the people we love and care about, and still continue to destroy something that is holds sacred to the Carrizo Comecrudo people, especially in Garcia Pasture. And when did indigenous history stop being important? It should always be important. It should always be held first. We are the First Nations of this land. We are the people who took care of this land before before it was colonized. And we have that connection. We were born from this earth. And we come together with these communities here that we build these relationships with. And we stood in their spaces with them on the same fights in their communities. So they're all just like my relatives from the north who came to pay back. That's why they're here, because they want you to understand what is coming into your community. And if y'all aren't if we don't back each other up, then we're just destroying ourselves for the future and our future generations to come. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming out and being here. and taking space with us and giving the history of where y'all live in your communities and sharing with us that this pristine area of the Gulf of Mexico is the last part of our coastline that is literally untouched by extractive industry. And we need to fight harder together to build that bond.
I'm gonna sit down because I'm sore from running. Not as sore as those guys are. They ran longer than I did. But I also broke my toe the other day. I just want you to understand. First, close your eyes a little bit. You know, when you dress up for Sunday, for Easter Sunday, you're all dressed up. You got your nice clothes on, and go back from your churches, go back home. First thing you do is you get into something real comfortable, don't you? You want to relax and enjoy the day. So you take your belt off, you take your tie off, whatever you do when you go to Easter Sunday. And that's exactly what's happening here today. You're never going to see me all dressed up because I'm comfortable the way I am. I'm a very common person. I'm not I don't pretend to be any kind of a spiritual person or anything like that. I am just me. And I believe that we have a right to allow these, everyone some freedom. And but this is who we were before. And when I talk about looking at our own problems, we have to understand that it's all connected, and it's interconnected. We haven't just fought LNGs. We fought to save the prairie dogs up in Lubbock, where they were trying to dig them out so they could build a strip mall. We were able to stop that. We worked against the coal mine in Quemado, which is near Eagle Pass, which had 250 manifested Carrizo artifacts. But nobody would look at that, and then everybody became indigenous after that. But we're talking as a tribe. We're talking about a nation. We're talking about a people that some of our own members are learning to be part of, and that they have to earn the respect and understanding of that. There's teachings and traditions and principles that we live by. And our principles and values are of this land. There aren't no American values. I want you to know that. And you can change everything from 5 to 10 years, because they had the 5-10-year plans. And for us, we lived understanding that we were part of nature, and we were part of the creation, and we had to learn to live in some kind of harmony with everything around us. The animals taught us, and we lived by that. We understood the beauty of them, and we also looked at the hostility of them as well. And so we knew that when we saw people walking on 2 legs, they were some kind of relatives to us. But then came all that colonized ideals of American dreams. To us, it's the American nightmare. And you need to hear that, because it hasn't been an American dream for a lot of us. When the governor of the state wants to do away with affirmative action, I thought, you have affirmative action in Texas? But that's one of the questions we have to continue asking ourselves. What kind of people are we putting in these offices who are afraid of people of color? And we work from all as a tribe. We're all colors, and I have cousins, who are not as full-blooded, if you want to call them, as me. But then there's those aren't the questions here. It's how you're raised and how you believe and how you respect those things. There's one concept that this country doesn't have when it comes to recognition, and it doesn't understand when it sets parameters. All 3 tribes in Texas own oil companies. and that are federally recognized, and that's because of their contracts. And that's why you don't hear them say very much of anything. And besides that, they're not native to Texas. And I will challenge all of them. I've worked for at least 2 of them, and I don't work for them anymore because of those things. I have principles. I have values, and I live by those values. I will compromise what I want. I'll compromise my wants, but I won't compromise my needs. And those needs are those values and are measured by those principles. And I'm not going to give up the value of land, because what land is more than what people. It's priceless, because those are my ancestors. Where you're standing now, where you're sitting now, you're sitting on my ancestors. And we need to understand that these things are the things that hold us to what is here. You start digging up our people, you're killing us again. From my linear descendancy, there was a man called Chief Nantakasia. And if you want to get the translation of the whole story that is in the Texas Railroad archives, had been there for over 150 years until we found it. And in trying to do this research so people would understand who we are, you'll find the story of Manuel Cavazos, who is my great-grandfather. And he was the sole survivor of the massacre at Devil's River. So I want you to close your eyes and just for a minute and understand what it's like to be massacred and to be left for dead and be buried in a mass grave and be the sole survivor of what happened there and have to tell that story. And then they come looking for you. The United States Army Corps of Engineers comes looking for you to tell the story of who's buried there, and he tells them, and nothing's done about it, because of course 256 of my ancestors died right there at Devil's River. Another 46 died at Los Ebanos down the road, and God knows just how many died right here at this place here, so they could have what they have today. So when you ask me about the cities and all this stuff, I'm not that permanent, and I think they're trash anyway, because what was here was pristine, and that was the original creation. And until we start respecting that original creation, we'll never have respect for what's happening to any of us right now. You are a sacrifice zone. You will become a sacrifice zone. You should see yourself as that, no matter what color you are. And that's why we're here. That's why we're calling these people again. And on that paper, and you can ask Cindy. Cindy's got it if you need to get a copy of it. She's pretty good at getting it to us. The one from Hopper. Yeah, you need to. And it was in the paper. It's the one that came out in Yes magazine. And it talks about how spiritual we were in the other side of us, the hostility that came out of us, because the priest and the Spanish soldiers came after us, and they killed 256 of our people, and he was trying to keep them from attacking us. And so we can look at the reality of what was really happening even in Texas. Even when Mirabeau Lamar, the first governor, or second governor of Texas, decided to get rid of all the natives. And that's why a lot of them went to Oklahoma, but it was the ones that came in later that went to Oklahoma. We were already set here. We've been set here for 500 years. A lot of us were considered just to be Mexican. And I still have a problem when anybody says, you're just a Mexican Indian. I'm a Estokna from the Amot Metel, and that's who I am, from Somisek. And that's why I have on my bumper sticker on my truck, it says, it's an Indian thing, you wouldn't understand. And then, because we do, and we understand what's going on there. We've had the education. And don't be mistaken, I don't brag about my degrees that I have, or the work that I've done, the research that I've done, because to me it's just toilet paper anyway. and it's a waste of trees for some people. And I think it's time that we start recognizing that what we're doing is just destroying more and more of who we are, just to accredit ourselves to the point of saying, I can speak for this. Well, it doesn't take you much to know that once you start, you know, making potholes in the earth, sooner or later you're going to have a lot of earthquakes. And if you don't know Texas, there's a J line that's called the Caprock, and it runs all the way into the Big Bend area. And if you don't think there were volcanoes here, visit the Big Bend for a while and learn some geology, because what they're doing in the Permian Basin and what Eagle Ford Shale is doing is going to create a mass destruction. And it's more, and that's what I'm saying about being interconnected. It goes further than what this is. The wall that they're building, that's ridiculous. They're just making decisions that none of us are based on. So if we, and those of us that have become colonized because we think we have reached our American dream just by being an electrician or by having our own boat or having, you know, those kind of things, no. For everyone that makes it, there's about another 100,000 that are not going to make it. And that's one of the things that we have to recognize. There's no equality, and their equality is based on how they measure it, and how they measure themselves, and what's equal to them, not to us. That word equality in that Constitution was never meant for anybody else, but for the people who were the plantation owners, and that's what they did. And they treat us all like slaves of the plantations, and we have to be able to stop that mentality. And that's why I keep saying, if you're uncomfortable with what I have to say and don't understand the genericism, we live in the United States of generica. I just want to say that. You know, everybody's confused, and there's an absolution for it. They absolve themselves from being confused. Oh, it wasn't my fault that that your people were being killed. Hey, we're being killed still now, promoting the same mentality. So where do you draw the line? And that's the issue with these kind of things, because nobody has had the time to sit down with us. They've already made up their minds. They want to make decisions for us. When they stole the land's been taken. It was not, and it was surveyed badly, and it surveyed away even from the people who didn't know what surveying was. I mean, how many of us Native people knew about surveying? And they came in and started surveying all the land and taking away the land. All this belongs to me, and it belongs, and then they don't let you in Texas because it's private land. You know, I wish we would have had those laws way back when. That way, I could have said, "Hey, no trespassers. They'll be shot on sight." But that didn't happen. We welcomed everybody into this land. We welcomed them onto the Rio Grande. They went all the way up Del Rio, and then they came back down killing people, killing our people. And then, of course, we killed them back. I mean, there's got to be a different kind of reciprocity in what's happening. And I think that these young people that came from South Dakota, my grandson, Joseph White Eyes, and Danny Grassrobe, who came down, and brought all the other young people. I want to say their names, because you need to remember these people, because they understand what reciprocity is, and we need to understand that we need to be helping each other, because we went up there to where we took help to them when they were standing at Standing Rock, and there were a lot of our people that went there and stood with them. And I think that they understand that, and that's why they came to do this. And I hope we can get them back here again. And if we can do it all together, make a big run, we can do it from Dallas, Texas, all the way down here. Wake up Dallas too. You know, it's not a woke society. They keep talking about the woke society. We have to wake up every day to the same crap, and we have to do something about it every day. Because I'm not quite awoke yet, because I haven't gone to sleep yet. You know, and that's the problem when you go to sleep. And I think we need to be able to stand up together and as one people and of the earth, because this thing about I gotta have one foot in the Indian world, another foot in the white man's world, is starting the division of this world doesn't exist. There's two worlds, and this is one planet. We live in the same world. They used to tell me that. I look down and I'm going like, hey, I'm still in the same world. You know, I didn't transport to another one. I'm still here. You know, and I have to deal with who I am and how I was raised, with what's going on around. These young people that are here, Joseph, stand up. Joseph, stand up. Joseph White Eyes, Danny Grassroad, Jazz, Bobby. I like saying Bobby's last name, Bobby Three Legs, and Cam Wall. Who else? Where's the other one? Where's Taylor? Is outside? Taylor and Jordan and Samo. They're outside. Is it Samo or Samo? That's what I thought, Samo. Anyway, but these guys, they understand what it is to be a relative, and some of us, it's taking years to understand that. So all I'm saying is, let's learn to be relatives. It's kind of hard not to recognize the fact that we have enough faults as it is, and I'm just a common man. And I try not to do the spiritual thing because I'm not. Look at your hands. Look at your hand. There's 5 fingers on that hand. One of them is for your physical being. The other one's for your social being. The other one is for your mental being. The other one's for your emotional being. Okay, the mental is psychological, and the fourth one is for the social being of who we are, because we're social beings, and we have to learn to do that. We've messed up our young people to the point, and I want to mention my niece's children also, who ran on this run all the way from the cemetery that we held for a year and a half. And so today is Autism Day, and and she has four wonderful boys, and at least 3 of them have real strong autism, right? Or all 4 of them, just 2 of them, and 2 of them, and I wanna, and they're smart kids, and I think we have to raise them up as well. And if it's a cause of our environment, then we have to start looking at what we're really doing to our children. And that's what this run was all about. That's why Krista kept correcting me. It's not the ancestral run for the youth, it's the bridges. And if you don't understand the bridge, it's about making that bridge back and forth. It just doesn't go one way. And it's for our children also to learn what has happened here. They take all that history out, we're gone. And you can't tell me to forget my past. You can't. And if you do, I'll just tell you, you're telling me to forget my ancestors? That's genocide. So I just want you to know that. This is my ancestors here. And there's a whole teaching in this hand. It gives you 364 days how to live. If you don't believe me, go to YouTube and look up the teaching of the hands, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I narrated that, so and I know the teaching. I'm not plugging myself. I'm just telling you. You want to know something about who we are? Go to YouTube. There's a teaching of the hands there, and it'll tell you what happened about the survey and how they divided everything. There was one of the great men that I never got to meet, but he was a Lakota man, and he was talking to some of the young people back when I was younger. He told them, he said, someday you'll be able to fly over the land and you'll see it all segmented in squares. And it says, that's the way the white man lives. And if you look now, you fly over a plane, everything's square segmented. Creator didn't do that. That was that canon law. And I think that y'all need to really understand that the segmentation is part of this colonization. And we can't continue to segment even the state lines. That's why we have to fight with each other. We have to fight together with each other against what's happening over there, because their mentality is plantation mentality. This young man here, I want you to know, he ran a lot, this young man. And this young man has had 3 heart surgeries, and he ran out there. And this, yeah, this is his buddy. This is my grandson. And they were out there running in. Hopefully, we were wanting to do it further, go longer with this. So, I think my son's gone. Oh, there's my other grandkids right there. They didn't make it because they wanted to run too. Oh, here's the other guy. This is Jaden. And that was Joshua. And Jaden also suffers a little bit from the autism I was talking about. This guy's smart. I'm afraid of him sometimes. He has some questions that are really hard. Right? I just want to raise those guys up. And this is the grounding that I really want to do, is for them, so they can grow into what really is here, and deserve the riches of just belonging to something that's bigger than a plantation. And look around you. You can see the plantation. The NFL is a plantation. All the sports are plantations, because if you're buying their memorabilia, guess who you are? You're the field slave. You're making money for that plantation owner. And then when you buy a ticket to go to a game, same thing. I love football, believe me, and I love baseball. But it's hard for me to give them $1 for it. I'd rather watch it on TV. And even then, if it's got to be on something where I'm not paying for it. It's ridiculous. We're becoming the field slaves. We got to find some way to stop all of this stuff. So I just wanted to say that much for you guys that are here, because there's a bigger thing here going on, and whether I wear a suit and tie or I'm walking around barefooted, and I will cover myself though. I mean, I'm just saying that don't judge us by the clothes that we wear. Let's judge them because they're naked. Next decade is naked, and they're covering it up with their marketing, their false marketing. They're selling bad business. They're a bad business. I mean, it's a bad business venture. When 3 banks have jumped out of helping them, and that they're trying to buy 4,000 acres of land here, and just to appease their greediness. They're not green, and then we asked them for some information on their last report to the FERC, and they said that they didn't want to share that with the public. So the FERC's saying, I can't share it with you because they don't want to share it. Freedom of Information Act, you got to give it to me, or I'll sue you again. I'm just at that point. They're not giving out any information. And if anybody has information about that kind of stuff, I'm going after you too, because I'm tired of it. That's what I'm saying. I'm tired of people playing these games, trying to make decisions for us. And I just want you to know, there's a young lady in here, over there, Becca over there. Yeah, Becca's over there, and look at her. I want you to look at Becca.
Come here, Becca.
Becca is not a criminal. And we're standing behind, a young lady who has done some of the greatest things of networking and bringing people together. And I just want you to know that, and that just because she's outspoken and will stand up to this, how can you paint on a wall that's already painted on and call it graffiti when the graffiti's already there, done by Elon Musk? That man is not from here. He's from South Africa, and And he didn't like the apart over there because he wants to be having apartheid here. So I mean, we need to change things. We need to change it big time, and we need to let the district attorney or whatever he is, Luis Saenz, to drop the charges on Becca. Save Becca, free Becca, free Becca, free Becca. And I just want you to know that I appreciate your participation. I didn't even expect this many people to show up. Jeffrey, thank you for coming. You're with Earthworks now. Oh, I'm sorry.
We're all one big fan.
Yeah, I know. That's why I don't see the thing with the org. Those are titles, you know, and that's why. I mean, I just know that we're all working toward one thing, and that's why I say if you hate me, I don't care. Let's just hate the other guy more, and we can settle our differences after we've gotten them out of the way. And but Jeffrey's been really helpful, and Mark also, and we appreciate you. And Gloria, thank you for your remarks on Starlink yesterday. That was remarkable. And Antoinette, I was going to call you Gabriela, I don't know why. Antoinette, from Sierra Club in New Mexico. And if I leave anybody else out, Angel, where's Angel? Oh, there she is. Angel's been great. She's put up with. Who? Mary. Where's Mary? Oh, here comes Mary. Remember the Shondells? That's been the theme song this whole weekend. She never heard it. She said, "Tommy and the Shondells." Anyway, Mary from Rand. Thank you very much. Rand's been support me and Becca when we went across the ocean to France, and so did Terre de Amis, the Friends of the Earth, and that was really helped a lot. And who am I leaving out? Dina and Maria from Border Workers United. And so I've been in some of their training. Who else is here? Oh, and Michael. I just saw Michael there, and it's like Michael with Taproot, and works closely with some of our coalitions that we're on. And I appreciate thank you for being here, man. Thanks. I'm glad you're here. All right. And of course, and Junior over here, you know, Junior is pretty cool. And thank you, Joanie, for your words. Thank you very much. And Chloe, thank you. Thank you for being here and supporting us. And I'm Atziri. I kept telling her she Dene, because Atziri is one of the Dene names. But her first name's Atziri. Oh, she's a Reyes. That's all right. Yeah, my mom's a Reyes. So. Oh, the guy across the road here, he's got boats. He's a primo. We should go get him his boat and take it to her. Anyway, and everybody else, all the staff, thank you, staff, for helping out. Cindy, Krista, I sent Wolf and Rose out. I know she's back here. I can hear her breathing. Deanna. Well, give it in a minute. And I think I got everything. Did I get everything? Oh, and our new attorney over there. She just got her degree, so. And she's ready to fight anybody. So all I want to say, I can't push, as a tribe, I can say, if you vote Native, you vote pro-Earth. So if you vote Native, that means that some of these conservatives are out. So vote pro-Native.
Thank you, Tribal Chairman, Mr. Juan Mancias. And thank you everyone for coming this afternoon and supporting this effort. Today is the World Monument Watch Day for Garcia Pasture, and that is why we're having this celebration. So if you would like to know more about that, please check out bridgetotheancestors.org. All right, so landing page will have all the information about the run as well as the World Monument Watch Day. Also, if you are interested in helping to support some of the expenses that were occurred from this ancestral walk run, we have beautiful bags that Mr. Mancias is modeling for us towards the back of the room. They are for we are accepting $10 donations for the bag. So if you would like to contribute to that, please do. We also have food, plenty of food, plenty of tacos in the back if you would like second helpings or you are hungry again. Danny?
So I just want to mention that it's really important that you know where the sources are coming from with all these extractive industries. For example, the Dakota Access Pipeline comes from MHA, the 3 affiliated tribes up in North Dakota. The Keystone Pipeline came from the tar sands up in Canada. And it's very important that you know where the source is coming from, because you can fight all these pipelines all you want. You can stop it at the tail end, because in Texas, that's what it is. It's the tail end of almost every pipeline, because they get, what do you call it, they get processed here. So it's really important that you find out where the sources of these pipelines or the extractive industries are coming from, so that way you can eventually go up north to fight the source. Because it's very important that people from the north of the border in Canada, those communities are hit pretty hard. We took a toxic tour back in 2018, and they have these ponds called Tailings ponds, and they almost kill wildlife and humans almost instantly. A full-grown grizzly bear can die within minutes, and I'm talking about a couple minutes. And they have, it's kind of weird, because they have this refugee for all these birds to come, and they're trying to like make it look like it's a good thing right next to these Tailings ponds. And they want these birds to come back with their natural migration. But yeah, they have cannons that shoot off almost every 30 seconds to scare the birds away so they don't land in the Tailings ponds. So it doesn't make any sense, right? But we have to understand where these sources are coming from, because Texas is almost the tail end of every pipeline that possibly can go through the United States. And the majority of them come from the tar sands in Canada. So we got to start thinking about our relatives up north, not just the southern, but up north too. We're all included in this extractive industry, this genocide. So it's very important that you know your sources and research your sources, which extractive industry is coming from where. And most likely it's coming up from Canada. So it's very important that you know that. And it's very important that you know that these communities up there, they have to bring in food, they have to bring in water to their communities. They don't get the luxury of fishing and hunting. They have to test their game before they eat it. Their beaver, their deer, anything that they hunt, they have to test it. Their fish, they can't fish, and they're like, all the fishing that they do, the river and stuff, they go upstream, they can't eat their fish. They can't do none of that. So once again, it is very important that you know where the source is coming from. So that way you can go to the source and you can fight it there. We don't want to no longer fight all these tentacles that are coming off from the beast. We want to fight it at the source. But that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you so much for that, Danny. So yes, let's make sure that when we leave here today, we take our grounding all the information that we have from the panelists that shared with us today, and to end with understanding, knowing the sources and how we can find where those sources are. Thank you again for being here on this beautiful afternoon. We look forward to joining together and standing in solidarity to have clean air, clean air, clean air, clean water, and clean land. Thank you.